Hi, my name is Joseph Parker, WBO champion of the world, and you're watching Sporting Icons.
So ever since the fantastic and surprising news that Dillian Whyte will be taking on Joseph Parker on July the 28th at the O2 Arena, and the undercard is going to be pretty spectacular as well. You've got Daniel Yalusanov already confirmed on the card, and Kell Brook's going to be on the card as well. Plus many other things like that is going to be announced on Monday. So stay tuned for all that. Now, the majority of people are ecstatic about this fight. Very, very happy. Most people prefer this fight to the Luis Ortiz or Kubrat Pulev fight. Obviously, Dillian Whyte was negotiating with both and was very, very close to signing up to fight Luis Ortiz. Okay. With Kubrat Pulev, he was offered 25%, and Team Pulev, the company who outbid Eddie Hearn with $1.5 million, this Epic Sports and Entertainment, couldn't provide the funds. Hence the reason why the Pulev fight didn't happen, as I said, in addition to the fact that he's going to get 25%, which is absolute garbage, as an IBF champion gets 75%, the mandatory gets 25% when they fight. Not two people going for mandatory. It doesn't work that way, but allegedly this is part of the rules. I don't know about this. So that kind of sucked. Now, so there's been a lot of people very, very positive about it, very pumped about it. I think it's an excellent fight. And most boxing people who love boxing, and whether you're casual or hardcore, love this fight. But there are a minority of people who don't. Now, of course, I'm seeing some of them in the comment section below in the videos. And of course, on my recommended videos, obviously, everybody gets them on YouTube, recommended videos, and most of these people or most of these channels are ones that I'm currently not subbed to, and nor will I be, and nor will I even give them a single view. Unlike them, they do with me, and they make videos about me. How nice. Anyway, so these ones I'm seeing on my recommended, and I can just see by the titles. I don't have to click them. I don't have to watch them. I know what they're going to say. These people are predictable. These are like cave dwellers who live under rocks and never talk about boxing in a positive way. So you kind of know who they are, right? And unfortunately, these people are Wilder fans, and these people give Wilder a bad reputation, which is why he's not warmed to. And just on a side note, if you support Wilder, that's fantastic. And there's a lot of great fans out there of Wilder, you know? There really are. They don't come across as haters. But for the rest of you who do go around hating, it's not compulsory to be a tit if you support Wilder. I'm just saying it's not. Okay, so, but again, these people are being brainwashed by other cave dwellers, these people who live under rocks, who just can't talk boxing in a positive way. All they do is put out hate after hate and negativity after negativity. That's what they do, unfortunately. But you know what, if they want to use boxing as a platform to always moan, never going to be happy. If you want to be sub to them and watch them and all that kind of thing, and keep on giving them super chats and donations to PayPal or wherever it is that you do, then you know what, that's entirely your own choice. For me, there's far more productive things to do, like walking into a house that you've never been into before, pitch black, trying to guess the color of the wall. That will be more productive rather than kill your brain cells listening to the lies that these guys put out and permanent hatred. So anyway, a lot of people were expecting the announcement for Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz. I kind of was as well. And Dillian Whyte confirmed that today, so did Eddie Hearn, that fight was nearly done. They'd already decided not to go with the Pulev route and wanted Luis Ortiz. But of course, Deontay Wilder, he said a couple of months back, if you fight Luis Ortiz, then I will fight you next. You know, the same kind of ones where the fans will go, what, Wilder said that? Yeah, okay, Wilder, you know, Wilder's right. We should follow whatever Wilder says, right? But yet when people said it about Wilder, how about you actually stepping up? That was an issue. You can't tell people who they should and shouldn't fight, but yet these people do, right? Anyway, so Dillian Whyte has said on numerous occasions since then, right, I will fight Ortiz next. Of course, the WBC said that he needs to fight Luis Ortiz to become the secondary mandatory. So again, make that clear. These people are leaving it out of their videos. It's secondary mandatory for WBC, not the main mandatory, okay? Dillian Whyte, WBC silver champion, and being silver champion and defending that title and paying the sanction fees to the WBC, this means when a final eliminator comes up to be the official mandatory, he is in pole position. But that's what pretty much should have happened. It should have been Dillian Whyte versus Dominic Breazeale, or Dillian Whyte as the official mandatory. One of those two things, okay? But no, they said Dominic Breazeale is the official mandatory now. Even though that they had written letters and replied to Eddie Hearn saying, no, Dominic Breazeale is not the official mandatory when he fights Eric Molina. It's not for that, so don't worry about it. Yes, go fight Lucas Brown and all that kind of thing. When the final eliminator comes up, we'll let you know. So, that was a lie. Even the press have this from the WBC, and the WBC were trying to work out some kind of situation, but they didn't. They couldn't, okay? And Dillian Whyte has the date of July 28th. Luis Ortiz does not want to fight on July the 28th. We've known about July 28th for the best part of, 6 weeks now, or thereabouts? Well, maybe not that long, but it's been a few weeks. We've known that it's July 28th, that the O2 Arena has already been booked and paid for Dillian Whyte to headline, okay? Now, so a lot of people were expecting the announcement of Luis Ortiz today, right? So a lot of people were making videos last night, and I have to admit I was pretty close to it myself, but luckily enough I messaged Dillian Whyte, and but anyway, so people ran with that story. It's confirmed and this is going to happen, trying to break the news. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to sit back on this one. I didn't know about Parker until this morning. Of course, there were some rumblings, some rumours. A Kiwi Box, he made a video last night saying that there was a rumour as well. So this all added to it as well. So this morning it gets announced that he's going to be fighting Joseph Parker. And in addition to that as well, this could actually be for the WBO mandatory. So there's an additional one right there, okay? Now, these people will do anything to hate on Eddie Hearn. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm actually going to compare the resumes between Luis Ortiz and Joseph Parker. Okay, but these people will all side with Luis Ortiz, even though a year or so ago they called him old, he's a drugs cheat, he's overrated, he's a hype, this and that and the other. But suddenly Wilder fights him, he's the best thing ever, he's the most scary heavyweight ever. But you do have to realise that this whole thing about the boogeyman with Luis Ortiz was actually manufactured by Tyson Fury. Okay, he did it, he started it, but nobody believed it, right? Until, of course, he fights Wilder, then suddenly he becomes big bad boogeyman. And this video may go on for a while, so you might want to click that thumbs up right about now and subscribe if you haven't already. So anyway, they ran with the story about Luis Ortiz, Dillian Whyte, all ahead of themselves, and they embarrassed themselves by doing it, okay? Hey, nothing wrong with it, I've done it myself, I've jumped the gun plenty of times. But these people will do anything that they can to hate Eddie Hearn. As I said, they woke up this morning from their cave. What? Dillian Whyte's not doing what we wanted him to do? Well, no, he's not doing what he wanted you to do, because first of all, the WBC screwed him over. There's the first one. And secondly, when Dillian Whyte said to Deontay Wilder, confirm to me right now that you will fight me next if I fight Luis Ortiz, Dillian Whyte went as quiet as a mouse. Sorry? Deontay Wilder went as quiet as a mouse. He didn't respond to Dillian. So again, there's no real incentive, because he's going to have to, so if he was to beat Luis Ortiz, he's going to be waiting a year, 18 months to get the mandatory position for WBC, right? So, not really a good move. It's good for the fans, don't get me wrong, I love that fight. I still love that fight. But I prefer the Parker fight, I have to be perfectly honest, and it did take me by surprise, no doubt about it. But you see, I just can't understand why these people who are hating just can't be happy with good fights. What is that? Why can't they just be happy? Are they going to criticise Wilder for fighting Breazeale? But no, you see, they're going to go with the whole mandatory thing. Well, he's not mandatory, he shouldn't be mandatory, but you know, they don't talk about that. How can he become mandatory for fighting Eric Molina? Shouldn't happen. But anyway, that is what it is. They just can't be happy with good fights. Now, these people are saying that Dillian Whyte has ducked Luis Ortiz. Now, bearing in mind, okay, Dillian Whyte was calling out Luis Ortiz for quite some time before Ortiz versus Wilder was even thought of. At the same time when Deontay Wilder saying, I'm not fighting Luis Ortiz, you know, he was the one who was actually avoiding Luis Ortiz. But then suddenly Showtime, Stephen Espinoza said, and they said this to Eddie Hearn as well, so again this is factual, that we've had enough of Deontay Wilder. Can you put him on one of your shows on Sky? Because he's costing us too much money and not providing what the fans want. Hence the reason why Luis Ortiz came along. They tried to make Deontay Wilder first Dillian Whyte for quite a few occasions, but he kept turning it down. So when you talk about ducking, Deontay Wilder ducked Dillian Whyte on several occasions. It doesn't matter how you spin it, doesn't matter how you look at it, he ducked him. He did not want to fight him. He refused to do so. Now, so also, Shannon Briggs tried to fight Luis Ortiz. When Luis Ortiz was with Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, Shannon Briggs came over to try and arrange a fight with Luis Ortiz. So again, he's not really the boogeyman, okay? And again, people say that Deontay Wilder took on Anthony Joshua's mandatory when Anthony Joshua should have done it. Now, Anthony Joshua was the IBF champion when he took on Vladimir Klitschko, then became WBA champion as well as. So he became a unified champion. The rules state whichever belt you have first, there's a mandatory, you fight that one first. These are the rules, hence the reason why he never got stripped. And on the back of that, he did offer Luis Ortiz a contract. Okay, I want to go fight Kubrat Pulev, which turned out to be Takam in the end because Pulev got injured, allegedly. And we will fight you next. We will even sign a contract right now so you can do it. But Luis Ortiz didn't want to do it. He then went up and tried to fight Wilder. He then subsequently failed the PED test because he didn't put the heart medication on there. Schoolboy error and all that kind of thing. But the WBA banned him. I agree, that was wrong. They shouldn't have banned him. If the WBC didn't do it, then the WBA should also not do it. But that aside, so he pulled himself out of the WBA situation. Okay, so again, that's a fact, people, and people keep talking about it, but it is a fact. So again, with the WBC situation, as I said, they screwed over Dillian Whyte. Now, Luis Ortiz, as I said, is he the boogeyman? Not really. As I said, this was something that Tyson Fury said, 3 years ago? Okay, and what's he really done to get that reputation? Only because Tyson Fury said it. That's the only reason why. And let's be honest, it's like people were critical of Joshua fighting Vladimir Klitschko, who was only 2 years older than Luis Ortiz on paper. Luis Ortiz is allegedly older than what he's putting down. Apparently this is something that Cubans do so they can stay as an amateur longer. I don't quite understand all that, but apparently that's what they do. Okay, but yet Luis Ortiz said that he actually watched Muhammad Ali live. So if you're watching Muhammad Ali live, how are you only 39 years old? I don't know. But you know what? Allegedly, he's older. Allegedly, he helped Moses cross the Red Sea. He helped build the pyramids and was good friends with Tutankhamun over in Egypt. So, apparently he's pretty old. Of course, when I'm saying this bit's not a fact, but the facts are coming up, so bear with me. Now, let's look at the resumes between Ortiz and that. So, as I said, I think I've quite clearly said that Dillian Whyte was actually trying to fight Luis Ortiz for quite some time. I think I said that, yeah? Right, but anyway, so let's have a quick look at Luis Ortiz's resume, shall we? At the minute, he is currently 28-1. His one defeat was the last one against Deontay Wilder. Don't really need to go into that one too much, other than the fact, round number 7, he had Wilder out of there. He survived to the end of round number 7, no doubt, and he did well for that. Most people would have took a knee to get a bit of time, but Wilder didn't. He showed some real warrior spirit in that one, okay? And either way, he made it to the end. He stumbled over to the corner, sat down, he had his minute's rest, and rather than the medical team checking why he's in the corner, they waited for the bell to ring for the start of round 8, and then time wasted by the referee checking on him. Okay, so he managed to recuperate a bit after that. But even so, Luis Ortiz was gassed at that point anyway. So either way, Wilder did go on and win. Big up, credit, and all that kind of stuff. So before then, though, he took on Daniel Martz, who was a journeyman. 16 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. Right before then, Daniel Martz lost to Bryant Jennings, who had been out of the ring for quite some time. So can't really give him that one, right? So he was actually out of the ring for quite some time before he fought Wilder, because his last fight before then was Dave Allen, and that was in December 2016. Okay, and he took on Daniel Martz only a few weeks before Deontay Wilder. So, you can kind of say he hasn't really done anything. So when people say that Klitschko took a long time off, he was actually in camp on a couple of occasions within that 1.5 year period, because he was preparing for a Tyson Fury rematch, right? Luis Ortiz was not. Luis Ortiz was not in camp at all. So anyway, so before then he took on Dave Allen, and he was 1 second away from going into the final round with Dave Allen. Dave Allen had 9 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. So Dave Allen was actually a novice with virtually 0 amateur fights. I think he only had like 5 amateur fights, and his 1 loss was against who? Dillian Whyte. Now, Luis Ortiz did stop Dave Allen 1 second before the final round. So that's how much he struggled. Malik Scott before then went the distance with Luis Ortiz, okay? This was a 12-rounder, and yes, he did knock down Malik Scott in round number 4, 5, and 9, but he couldn't stop Malik Scott. This is the same Malik Scott who got hit on the gloves by Deontay Wilder and went down like he'd been shot and stayed there. Even though you can see in the replay, he didn't touch him. There's a dive if ever there was one, right? But that's Malik Scott. Malik Scott, the guy who got knocked out by Derek Chisora. Okay. Now, one of his biggest wins for Luis Ortiz was Tony Thompson. At that time, he was 40 wins and 6 losses. Previously lost to Vladimir Klitschko. Okay. At this time, Tony Thompson was old. Proper old. Okay. Before then would be Luis Ortiz's biggest win, Bryant Jennings. Now, Bryant Jennings at the time was 19 wins and 1 loss. And his 1 loss was to who? Vladimir Klitschko. Okay. And that was literally the fight before Luis Ortiz. Okay. And it was only like 6 months before then or thereabouts. And then, of course, he went to Luis Ortiz after suffering a defeat and ended up getting stopped by Luis Ortiz. He ended up getting knocked out in, what was it, round number 5 or something like that? No, sorry, here we go. Round number 7, he got stopped. Okay, so Luis Ortiz did well, but Bryant Jennings is the biggest name on his resume. Yeah, he's the boogeyman. Okay? Did you know Luis Ortiz has never beaten an undefeated fighter? Never done it. He has been in the ring with one. Well, 2 actually. One of them was Deontay Wilder, of course. But before then was Latif Kayode. And this was a no contest because Luis Ortiz failed a drug test. He did actually stop him in round number 1, but it goes down as a no contest. So officially, Luis Ortiz has not beaten a single undefeated fighter, and which is odd for a boogeyman, right? But you know, that kind of is what it is. But you know, just by looking at that resume, you can quite plainly see that Luis Ortiz is not the boogeyman at all. He hasn't beaten anybody, and as I said, he's as old as the hills. He did nearly get Wilder out there, no doubt, and yes, he did get screwed. Even Paulie Malignaggi said it, okay, and plenty of people have said it. But regardless, so Joseph Parker, let's have a look at his resume, shall we? So as I said, with Luis Ortiz, his biggest wins was Malik Scott. I told you that Derek Chisora knocked him out, and he went down by being shot on the gloves by Deontay Wilder, and he ran the entire fight with Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz couldn't cut the ring off. He nearly went the distance with Dave Allen. His biggest win is Tony Thompson and Bryant Jennings. Bryant Jennings, who come off a loss to Vladimir Klitschko, right? So, let's look at Joseph Parker's resume. His last fight was a unification fight with Anthony Joshua, something that Wilder has never done. Okay, but Joseph Parker has. He lost. He's the first person to go the distance with Anthony Joshua. Okay? And he did well in that fight to get that far. Yeah, the referee was a pain in the arse, no doubt about it. But for me, no, the referee didn't help Joshua, it didn't help Parker either. In fact, he hindered both of them. And that's the truth of it. So he was actually a world champion. And how did he become world champion? By beating an undefeated Andy Ruiz Jr. Yes, undefeated, something that Luis Ortiz never has. Andy Ruiz Jr. was 29-0, and he beat him on points. It was a close fight, no doubt, but still, he beat him. He was supposed to fight Hughie Fury next, but Hughie Fury pulled out last minute and ended up having to fight his own sparring partner in Razvan Kajanu. Totally different styles, but either way, Joseph Parker did what he had to do and won. And then after then, Hughie Fury, where he defended his title on British soil. So yes, he actually travelled Wilder has never travelled, right? But yet people say Joshua should travel. Joshua's had 5 defences, unified twice, and beat a Hall of Famer and had a mandatory. Deontay Wilder has defended 7 times. He never left the country either. He also never unified, and he also never beat a Hall of Famer. Just saying. So either way, he beats an undefeated Hughie Fury. So Joseph Parker's been in some pretty decent competition. Let's add into the fact as well, right before Andy Ruiz Jr., Alexander Dimitrenko, who's of course currently ranked quite highly now. He beat the living crap out of Dimitrenko. He really did. Solomon Hamuno, an Australian fighter. This was a huge fight down there. Again, he stopped Solomon Hamuno by a 4th round stoppage. Before then, Carlos Takam. Carlos Takam had only ever been stopped by Alexander Povetkin. Okay? Joseph Parker, in his very, very early fight, because even right now, like with Joseph Parker, he's 24 years old and only 1 defeat, which was of course against Anthony Joshua, and 18 of those were by knockout out of his 24 wins, and he's only 26 years old. How old is Luis Ortiz? 39 officially, some say older. So, you know, he's taken on much stronger competition. And guess what? Joseph Parker also beat Daniel Martz 3 years ago in the 1st round. Luis Ortiz did it in the 2nd round, in the fight before he fought Wilder. He beat Carlos Takam. Who would win between Bryant Jennings and Carlos Takam? Who would win between Tony Thompson and Carlos Takam? An old Tony Thompson and Carlos Takam. I think we all know Carlos Takam will win them. Andy Ruiz Jr. would also beat Bryant Jennings, yes? Hughie Fury would also beat them, yes? So again, you know, just by those few names, I think we've just proved, without any shadow of a doubt, that Joseph Parker has a better resume than Luis Ortiz. As I said, I like Luis Ortiz, but facts are facts. You can't hide away from the facts. Just because you don't like a fact doesn't mean it's not a fact. So this is actually a fact. Okay, he's beaten more undefeated fighters and been in the ring with them as well. He's been in the ring with an undefeated Anthony Joshua. Yes, he lost on points. Undefeated Hughie Fury. Undefeated Andy Ruiz Jr. Okay, and as I said, in addition to that, Carlos Takam as well, and stopped Daniel Martz quicker than what Luis Ortiz did. He's also beaten Dimitrenko, Solomon Hamuno as well. So it's pretty obvious who the more dangerous fighter is, who the better one is. Technically, you could say Luis Ortiz is better, for sure, skill-wise, but he's old. He's 39 years old. Joseph Parker is 26 years old and a former world champion. A guy who has balls of steel, who actually tried to unify with Anthony Joshua rather than waiting in the background making excuses just to try and get a pass into undisputed for the final. He stepped up. That's something Wilder never done as well. Okay? Wilder didn't try to make a fight with Parker, did he? Oh, that's right, he did, but couldn't afford it. But yeah, he can afford Joshua, right? I wonder why that is. Could it be because Wilder's using Joshua's name? Of course it is. So when people say that Luis Ortiz is a more scary option for Dillian Whyte than Joseph Parker, you couldn't be further from the truth. Joseph Parker, who went the distance with Anthony Joshua. Luis Ortiz, who got stopped by Deontay Wilder, got dropped, was it 3 times in the total fight, and ultimately got stopped. Joseph Parker's never been on the floor, even as an amateur, never been on the floor. Never really looked like he was about to. But anyway, people will hate. So these are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're still with me. The video went on for ages, didn't it? I didn't mean to go on this long, but anyway, drop your thoughts below. Do you really believe that Luis Ortiz is more dangerous than a young former world champion than Joseph Parker, who Joseph Parker clearly has a better resume? If you really want to call somebody a boogeyman, well, there's more chance of Joseph Parker being a boogeyman than there is Luis Ortiz. Again, people say that, what is it that Dillian Whyte has done to deserve a shot at our champion, Deontay Wilder? Well, look at who it is that Dillian Whyte is beating. Much better, stiffer competition than what Deontay Wilder had when he got his title shot. When Deontay Wilder got his title shot, that was 33 fights. And his 32nd fight, he beat Jason Gavin. Just saying. So anyway, drop your thoughts below, click that thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.